Let me guess. You love to sit for hours in a darkened room admiring great films. You spend most of your time writing characters, scenarios and stories. You love to create worlds to escape to. And now you probably had the crazy idea of wanting to make films for the rest of your life. But you worry. How can I break into the industry? Should I spend all my money to go to a prestigious film school? Well, stop worrying. Cause I'm here for you. I finished my masters at the London Film School not long ago. And so in this series, I'm gonna share with you everything that I learned in film school. Almost everything. But who the hell is this dude? And what does he know about filmmaking? Well, this dude is called Antona Sequeira. I'm Portuguese and I moved to London to become a filmmaker at the tender age of 18. My first 3 years were spent in a BA in filmmaking at London Met. One of the most pointless and soul-crushing 3 years of my life. But even though I felt like a failure afterwards, I had grown a lot, not just as a director, but as a person, in ways that I hadn't fully understood yet. And when I was about to move back indefinitely to Portugal, not far from giving up, I received an email saying I got into the master's program at the London Film School. To be honest with you, I think one of the main reasons I applied, even unconsciously, was because I wanted to postpone being an adult and escape the soulless and disheartening search for jobs and find some comfort in a setting where you can learn and fail without too much pressure. Of course, LFS actually turned out to be way more stressful experience than I first imagined, but at least I grew a lot as a person and as a filmmaker. Now that I'm in pre-production of my first feature, I found myself going back to my old notebooks, full of notes, lessons, scribbles, statements and references that I had written down in those classrooms full of asbestos and in those uncomfortable cinema seats in the center of Covent Garden. And so I decided to use some of my time to create this series and share with you most of what I learned from my 3 years experience at the London Film School. At first, I wanted to compile it all into a book, but then I realized nobody reads books anymore. And so I decided, let's turn it into a video series and make sure we reach the biggest amount of people possible. And thus help you answer the question you have in your mind right now. Is film school worth it? It depends. I know it's a boring answer, but unfortunately that's the truth. It just really depends on what you want to get from it. Let me put it in perspective. Tuition at my school was £27,000 a year.
But for that price, I could buy an amazing camera, couldn't I?
Yes, that's true. But then again, it's not about the camera, but what you put in front of it. And that's what you will learn in school. Valuable tips, so that you'll make sure you put something interesting in front of the camera and on the screen for people to see. But I'm on your side, it's way too expensive. Especially now that most classes are online. I don't even know how that works anymore.
Surprise, mother.
I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to attend the school. And so, for me, everything that I learned and took from the school was pretty much all profit. But many of my classmates, they wonder the same questions themselves. What could be worth so much money? I can't answer that honestly, because I didn't pay for it. But for me, the biggest takeaway from film school was definitely the people that I met there.
But what if I go and then the people I meet there are all wankers? Huh?
Well, that's a solid point. And it's very likely that you'll meet a bunch of people who definitely are. I met quite a few myself, but in the end I think I was lucky, because some of the people I've met have made me a way better filmmaker in various different ways, and it will be great to continue working with them.
But can't you meet great like-minded people anywhere? Working on a set, or on a cinema, even at Starbucks?
Yes, that is also a good point. But I would be cautious of those Starbucks so-called writers, who carry their MacBooks everywhere. They tend to be a bit obnoxious.
Hey, getting some writing done there, buddy?
Yeah, setting up in public so everybody can watch me type my big screenplay.
Me too. All real writers need to be seen writing, otherwise what's the point, right?
You should totally write that down.
Okay, will you watch me?
Disclaimer, I also used to write scripts on my Mac at Starbucks.
These fruit name products are everywhere in the industry, and unfortunately everybody uses them. Yes, it's a bit of peer pressure, but not only. Because you gotta understand that partitioning drives and all that isn't the easiest thing to do when you're transferring terabytes of clips. And be ready for that, because these DPs nowadays, they either want to shoot 16mm film, or 4K, or 8K, or 16K, I don't know, they keep making up numbers.
Because it's a real Hollywood movie.
So definitely, meeting people who challenged my views and with whom I could collaborate with was important to me. But it wasn't all. Being in an environment where like-minded peers and teachers challenge each other to be better, with access to facilities and equipment you wouldn't otherwise have, while having strict deadlines can be very, very beneficial. Sometimes more than we like to admit, because we so-called artists tend to procrastinate. And it's not because we're lazy, only partially, but because we fear not being good enough. We want our scripts and our films to be perfect before we show them to anyone. And so, without a strong push or a strict deadline, we might get stuck in that development phase. We can write a script and sometimes not even fully finish it. Then put it to the side and start writing another. And never ever make a film.
You can't get a bad shot if you don't roll the camera.
I definitely felt that difference once I graduated. Now I have my own deadlines, and since I don't fully respect my past self, sometimes I tell him to bugger off and I don't meet those deadlines, which is stupid of course. Film school definitely helps with that. You get 3 months and you need to make something, no matter how shit it will be. And you wanna know a little secret? It will be shit. But it's okay, it's all part of the process. And you'll be getting better and better by making those mistakes, which will be embarrassing, and you'll try to erase it out of IMDb, but won't be able to. And maybe if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, maybe one day you'll make a film that is not shit. At least I can only hope. However, you'll never get there if you never make one. And that pressure from film school can actually be quite helpful in doing it.
Disclaimer, if what you're looking for is to get a diploma so that it will get you jobs, then perhaps film school isn't for you. Unless you want to be a teacher.
Sorry, it's just a very sore topic amongst film graduates, because the truth is that nobody in the industry gives a flying if you have a BA or an MA, or any other kind of paper for that matter. Still, my goal here is not to encourage you or discourage you from going to film school. I want you to watch this whole series of videos, and in them you hopefully will find everything or almost everything that I learned in film school, so that if you're facing this choice, you can make an informed decision by understanding what you will learn and what you want. But remember that a lot of this information doesn't fit in this format. You might watch countless YouTube videos and interviews of famous filmmakers, but there's nothing like making a film and failing to learn what works for you and what doesn't. So after watching this series, regardless whether you decide to go or not to go to film school, what I do hope happens is that you go out there and make a film.
79 fucking explosives.
Fucking action.
That's actually why I structured this series a little bit different. Instead of class by class, a bit about this, a bit about that, which can become very chaotic, I am focusing on how to make a film, step by step, from having an idea till making money from that idea. Which, trust me, is possible, even with short films. I've managed to, and so can you.
Feeling good, like I should.
So this series of videos will basically follow some sort of chronological order, passing through all the different phases of production. First writing and all its subtopics, then producing, directing, editing, TPing, sound, and even distribution and festivals. We'll try to cover everything, from rags to riches. Each lesson will have a bit of theoretical knowledge, but not told to you as the truth. It will be based on some teachers' approaches and of course some my personal preferences. Some might be contradicting, some I might not even agree with. But the whole point is to give you the experience in terms of
I don't agree with what the teacher is saying.
And that's a trademark of a film student. The whole point is that I'm not telling you how to make a good film. I'm telling you how my school taught me how to make a good film. I will also add some practical tips from examples of films that I worked on while in school, so that you can see a lesson and straight away see its practical example. I'm also going to talk to you about some screenings we had and some exercises for you to try at home, so that you too can become a better filmmaker every single day.
Y'all ready for this?